Mugambi is camped at the residence of businessman Jimmy Wanjigi's compound. The NASA leader Raila Odinga is expected to be making a statement from there anytime. But before then, Charles, in the last 2 weeks or so, up until yesterday, the police have been accused by a section of the country of perpetrating tension, given the way you have handled the NASA daily, weekly, or Monday and Friday demos.
Yes.
What's your reaction to this, especially the part where they say you have targeted killings?
I told you we are in a political period, and there is bound to be construction of ideas, and it is very dangerous. It's very dangerous to construct ideas to the extent of trying to convince the communities that the police are just very bad people. Because once you do that, you forget that apart from the political problem that you want to solve by constructing the police negatively, the police still have a duty to protect these citizens. You've seen political leaders complaining when policemen are withdrawn from them. It tells you how important that policeman is to every individual.
Yeah.
The political leaders have opportunity to have policemen by them. But any other Kenyan, Mama Mboga, who is coming to Gikomba, has no policeman next to her, and she still needs security. So when the public are incited against individuals or communities, then we are putting a lot of problems to people. Now, what I want to come to is Article 37 of this Constitution is very clear, that every person has a right to demonstrate, to assemble, to picket, and to present petitions. But also remember, there are limitations to these rights. There are only about 4 or 5 rights that are not limited by law or the Constitution. One of them is the right not to be tortured is a right that cannot be limited, or cruelty, or being treated badly, or right to fair trial, right to not to be enslaved or be made a servitude, or right on habeas corpus, right that you be taken to court if you are under the custody of police. These are the only rights that are absolute. The right to demonstrate, and including the right to life, is not absolute. There is a provision in the Constitution that it is only that the right to life cannot be taken intentionally. If it is to be taken, it must be taken as provided by the Constitution or any other written law. Now, these rights are limited by written law. And the written law, in this case, we have what we call the Public Order Act. Even if you go to England, the UK that colonized us, even if you go to South Africa, there is what we call the Public Order Act. Like the first Public Order Act here was in 1950. I think that must have been approaches to as we were approaching the emergency, the struggle for independence. And the Public Order Act gives the background on how picketing demonstration should be done. It is your right. But you must know that when you are carrying out...
And the police are still supposed to provide security.
It is true. And in fact, the police is supposed to provide security if you request for it, or if they feel there is need to provide security. But we are saying what happens, and it's very important that you have asked this. What happens is, and it's important that Kenyans get to listen, that right is not absolute. What happens is there is control because of as it is provided for public order. There is control because of order. One, you are supposed to notify police. When you notify police, the person notifying police is now the one we call the convener. Now, when you notify police, you should notify police at least 3 days before, and not more than 14 days before. There's a reason for that. I would explain. Then, after notifying police, then you are supposed to give destination, time and route. The area you are going to assemble, the route you are going to take, and the time. This is just, and you know, the purpose of demonstration is to send a message. Inside you have a lot of pressure. You want to send a message. But it is not supposed to be for purpose of conveniencing another person. Remember, the same constitution...
Just a minute, as you go on.
Let me finish.
Why? No, it's okay. See your take, because this is very important.
Yes.
Why do you have to provide the route and the time?
The reason why you have to provide the routes and the time is so that you ensure at that particular time you don't inconvenience another person.
Very important.
We can divert the routes. For example, today, Charles, your mother is coming from home and she's in ambulance, or your brother, any other citizen, and is supposed to go to Nairobi Hospital for treatment.
Yes.
Without putting that person in an ICU in the next 10 minutes or so, he would be dead. So what happens is, if we don't manage the route, then what happens is that you will get yourself into trouble because you will inconvenience others that require. Secondly, there may be also other people with different interests who would also want to demonstrate, who may also use the same route. To say there are 3 groups demonstrating, so you avoid a clash. And also we are working on what is called order. Demonstration is not supposed to inconvenience people.
I would therefore be interested to know how the NASA demos clashed with the demos or the security or standoff business community.
I will explain.
They found themselves on the same route.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying this is a construction. Because you are media, you pick pictures. You should be able to show us this Nairobi business community that we have been talking about. It's just like what you have seen on the social media. A rasta with a police fatigue and a gun. You think it is true? That even if we were malicious to what extent, we can have a civilian in our midst and a rasta? Then, if we are that malicious, then we have to shave him to look like us. Would we be so naive, so thick, so inconsistent, so myopic?
But you have used live bullet. Why? Against demonstrators.
Yes, and that is where let me come to you.
Yeah, get to it.
Let me come to you. In any riot situation, anywhere internationally, there is no day you will carry firearms without live bullets. That does not mean that all firearms will have live bullets. Because any moment you have firearms without live bullets, then they are not firearms. They are rungus. Are you getting me? So what happens is, as much as we would have rubber bullets, but there will be what we call an armed party. Let's assume the policemen are attacked by a population and they don't have
rubber bullets.
What would happen? You saw the case in Homa Bay where an officer just last week who was armed was beaten, was snatched his firearm, and what saved him is he came from that ethnic community and he had to speak mother tongue and tell them, please don't kill me, I'm one of you. But you see, that kind of behavior, that process of snatching a policeman his gun in itself, you are calling for your death. That policeman in his own volition, and I've always said this, police officers are trained clearly on circumstances when they may use their firearms. And Mutegi, it is fair that we tell Kenyans this. Don't lie to Kenyans that policemen can never use their firearms. They can use a live bullet. But they are not supposed to use it aimlessly, without
they're
control.
Supposed to be responding to a command.
No, there's no command. We are not military. We are not military that we get command on use of our firearms. Let me tell you.
So are you saying the use of firearms is not the discretion of a officer?
Yes, because we are trained. A police officer will always find himself in a situation that he has no time to refer to his books to find out, is this justified? Or to refer to his boss and call me and tell me, Afande, can I use my firearm? The police officer is well trained that, and we don't take responsibility. Every police officer takes individual responsibility. And that is why you've seen situations, even during this election, we took an officer to court from Nyamira. There's an officer who discharged his firearm on election day, a sergeant.
Do you find it ironical that in Homa Bay, where a police officer was snatched his firearm, nobody was shot dead? In Bondo, where the crowd was supposedly intending to attack a police station, 2 people were shot dead.
What I'm saying, it is the discretion of an officer. Maybe this officer, maybe he was caught from behind. You never know how he was caught and how he was denied his firearm. But if he would have used his firearm and killed someone in Homa Bay, you would be arguing the same way you are now arguing on Bondo case, because he would have shot someone and therefore he would have not been snatched his firearm, and therefore you would have never believed that this officer's life was in danger. And even now, because people were shot and they took off, you would not believe. But as a police officer also, I am not entitled to defend loss of life. And that is why when a person dies in the circumstance that 3 people were shot and died in Bondo, we always open inquiries into the cause of death, the inquest, and they are put before a magistrate having jurisdiction. And any person,
do we ever find out?
Excuse me, any person, including Amnesty International, Kenya National Commission of Human
Rights Watch,
any good Kenyan citizen who has any other evidence other than what may be presented is allowed to appear before that inquest. And I can tell you that if it is found that a police officer was not justified to use his firearm, then he will have to take responsibility. And I've given you an example of what happened on the election day in Nyamira. You are cutting me.
No, you believe
let me finish it. Yeah. A police officer who shot an individual on that election day, a sergeant, we arrested him and we charged him because we did not need an inquest. It was an outright case of either carelessness or misuse of his firearm, and he was charged. But I want Charles, and you are a reporter, and we are lucky that we come from the same ethnic community, and we come from the ethnic community where there's a lot of tension.
I love the lucky part.
Yes. And therefore we have a duty to inform our people, because they can trust us more than they can trust Mutegita. It's a fact that don't be lied to that a policeman cannot use his firearm, and that a policeman can use his firearm, and that you have a right to demonstrate, you have a right to picket, but do it within the law. Don't do it out of the law. Don't be excited. Don't be incited by anybody, and let us avert deaths.
Erastus, do you find it interesting? I'll come to you, Mohammed. The comment by Charles, and I paraphrase, that the police officer is at his own discretion to use the firearm depending on where they are. And I want to take it,
the circumstances.
And I want to take the attitude of the public. It's not just in Kenya. Look at what happened in Spain when they had to take police officers from Madrid to go and quell riot in Barcelona. And the talk was the police officers from Madrid are using excessive force because we are Catalans. Is it a common thing?
Yes, Charles, that's a very complex situation. And I think 2 things emerge from what Charles has said, which can be summed up in 2, that is training and response. Because if you say that the police officer must use their discretion, it now boils down how they are trained to be able to apply that discretion rationally. And here is where I would suggest, one of the things that disturbs the images that you see on television is you see somebody running away, you see somebody has fallen down, and 2-3 police officers come hitting that individual with rungus or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't augur well for the police. Yeah. And so you create an image to the public of not wanting to preserve law and order, but punishing. And I want to agree with what Charles has said in the main, that people must be taught to obey law and order. And I hear even from all talks, and I must say, from what I hear even the politicians say, we want to maintain peace. And I think this is where I want to challenge Charles, to say, would it not be possible for us to see, if you would sit down with those who are organizing demonstrations, agree to say, how many people are you likely to have? Can we then, once we know the route, I've seen police come out in large forces, make sure that they give you marshals, then you safeguard those routes, but make sure that you also inform the public that the welfare demonstration, so that they keep up of and allow that to happen. What you start to see is, yesterday, first of all, I was happy to hear I pour a chair to talk, and also the government spokesperson, and they were all in the same tune with Charles is saying, that they don't condone police using force, and in the main, they even take them. But what I want to say then here is justice must be seen to be done. You see, it's not enough to say we take them to court and then the mother disappears there. The reason why when you have somebody who has been arrested, they are arraigned in the court, you bring the media, or everybody, is to tell the public that this is not condoned and is not allowed. Justice is seen, and therefore you deter that. But going back to the training, I would then say, I think we need to do a little bit more here, so that we can all say, when is excess force excess? Because that's what I hear all the time. But coming into response is when I come back to say, let us, I'm sure those who organize demonstrations, unless they come out with the intention of breaking the law, it is you can always sit down and agree. And here is where I would say, I was a little worried when I heard somebody say, in the midst of police people, there can be thugs who come with a gun and then shoot at the public. That is worrying.
Sorry, I am told we have to cut this a bit short for just a moment and cross over to Muthaiga Estate, where we have reporter Hassan Mugambi at the residence of businessman Jimmy Wanjigi. Hassan, if you can hear me, please bring us up to speed on what's the latest.
Well, thank you very much, Charles. I can get you very loud and clear. We are at the residence of Jimmy Wanjigi, actually at the main entrance of his house here, and the police have already vacated this particular place. That is maybe perhaps in obedience of the court order that was sought by Wanjigi's lawyer yesterday, just barring further search in his property, and also imminent arrest after him depositing a 50,000 Kenya shilling bail at the High Court of Kenya, and that they secured. And currently right now we understand and know that since yesterday former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and NASA leader has been inside this particular building, and he will be coming out anytime from now, and he will be of course speaking to us and telling us what exactly he had been doing here from yesterday. Remember yesterday there was a bit of a confrontation between him and the officers who were actually conducting that particular operation, the multi-agency officers drawn from the administration police, the crimes prevention unit of the flying squad, as well as the GSU. They were all here, and he actually made a confrontation here, telling them to obey the courts and listen to what the court has actually ordered as at yesterday. Remember, the lawyers led by James Orengo actually made their way here, and although they were restricted from gaining entry into this particular compound, they pinned, or rather taped, the court order on the gate for the officers to clearly see and know that they actually have been ordered to stop that particular operation. So for now we're waiting for him to just be walking out of this particular house. It was the strong belief of the officers conducting the operation that Wanjigi was inside this building all along. So whether or not he is a question that we are seeking to answer in a few minutes time, after they actually walk out of this particular door that is right behind me to tell us what exactly has been cutting.
Hassan, so should we be expecting a press conference or an address by Raila Odinga immediately gets out of the house?
Yes, that is the expectation. We actually spoke to some of his handlers here, and they are telling us that he will be addressing us after he walks out of that particular door, yes.
Any possibility of quantifying what has been perceived as the damages caused by the police officers? Because it was all over yesterday that they broke cameras and broke doors.
Yes, it is very, very evident. If my cameraman Dida Mohammed can just, zoom into that particular the CCTV, what looks like a CCTV camera right there. It was, of course, pinned up the door before the operation started, and we can see also from the door there's a segment of the door that is expecting the segment of the door that had window panes that had been up there, but they look like they have been broken and replaced by reflectors from a motor vehicle. So we cannot possibly come out and quantify the extent of the damage, but that the owners of the property will be coming up and telling us that. We'll be putting that question to them so that later on they can tell us how much damage has been caused by the operation that ensued here yesterday.
There were reports that some guns were recovered at the residence of businessman Jimmy Wanjigi. Could you confirm if they were licensed?
Well, as far as the pistols that were recovered here is concerned, those ones were licensed, but we don't know about the M4 rifle and the shotgun that was among the dragnet, if at all those were licenses. But then again, that is also subject to confirmation. But we know that the pistols that were recovered here were licensed to Wanjigi. He was a license holder of those firearms.
Hassan, we'll be coming back to you as soon as the former Prime Minister is ready to talk to the members of the press. Keep it right there and keep us posted on the events as they unfold. Now, before we take a quick commercial break, Mr. Mutegi, your take on all this?
I don't know. Maybe Charles can tell us. The police, when they raided the place, they had a warrant. Or they didn't have a warrant. They had the authority to go to the building. Now the High Court now stops it. So who is who? What is the problem here now?
I think as a policeman, you must not have a warrant to search a building.
Yeah.
There are circumstances in law that you are authorized to search a place without a warrant. What is expected of us is what is the reason. For example, if the same person goes to court that you did not have a warrant. For example, sometimes you have information that something is within this building, and at that time of going to court to get a warrant, you may allow that thing be removed, or the information may leak to the third party. Then what you do, you simply record in your notebook and indicate why you want to break into that building without a warrant. And whatever you get, you record. That is allowed in law. I've not been able to get, because it has been very busy since yesterday. I've not been able to get a brief from my colleagues who have, you remember, they have been there the whole day yesterday, the whole night. We were giving them opportunity to clear up and then come up and brief us on exactly what happened. So I don't have the exact briefing, but hypothetically I know in case there was a warrant, well and good, and in case there was no warrant, then the law does fully restrict us from getting into a building without a warrant.
Mohammed, sorry, I kept...
no problem. Appreciate. I'll go back to the issue of picketing, which is enshrined in our constitution. And I always repeat, and I will say it again, that you have a freedom to picket. But remember, we have other members of the society who may not wish to be part of that picketing. In that case, that's why the issue of route, the issue of time is very, very important. One, you have to liaise with the police. Picketing is all over, so that you do not make one particular route to be the route that you're always using, because remember, I'm speaking now from the side of KEPSA and business community, that if every day there is picketing and it's that particular street that you're using, it means that
businesses in that street.
What
if your interests are in that street?
Again, everyday picketing, that's something else. But
something else has been not allowed by the law. Something else has been too much.
We know why IBC is, and we know why NASA is going there. They can't go anywhere else.
The issue we have as business community is when you're picketing and you're virtually not only that one street, but you're virtually all over town. We've seen it. And then the second part is you're coming to picket, and we've seen images where somebody is carrying a big
stone,
rock. Somebody is carrying a sling. What you see when Palestine and against the Israeli forces, somebody with a sling. We've seen it. Then you go on social media, we've seen respectable people, you know, in society who are saying, don't be cowards. We are more than them.
But social media is debatable, because I could have an account called Mohammed Hashi and it's not you.
No, we've even heard people say that even on TV they've been quoted. You know, where you're saying, "Hey, I'm yourself." You know, they are not. You know, the police are only 150,000. Now, what I would say, and this is what Bonawino was saying, addressing the people who have been misled. But look here, you cannot come in and purport that you want to disarm an armed policeman who has been trained. Because at the end of the day, it is said, you can choose your actions, but it's not your business to choose the consequences
of your actions.
We'll
be taking a commercial break, but before we do that, Charles, the motorist who drove over demonstrators in town, has he been apprehended?
I'm not aware, I'm not briefed on that, whether he has been apprehended or not. I would be lying. But definitely, when you run over people, whether it is intentional, it's just like when you are driving along the road and you lose control and you hit someone. Whether you did it intentionally or not intentionally, at the end of the day, you will have to be charged before the court of law, unless there's a very good reason. Because what happens is that any motor accident, 99%, you would be charged. So I know there may be a lot of defenses the person, when arrested, may come up with. He may say, I was threatened, I was what, but that will not matter. So I don't want to be in any conflict or any doubt that the person who ran over demonstrators and the persons who are harmed will definitely have to be brought to book, in one way or another.
Are you aware if the demonstrators who are injured have recorded statements or anything? Has the police gone to them and recorded any statements?
I'm not aware, because I think the traffic department will have to definitely do that. I would not assume that it is not done.
This is the point where we take another commercial break, and we'll be right back with my panelists, His Excellency Erastus Mwencha, Mr. Mohammed Hashi and Mr. Charles Owino, together.